Ready? Okay, picking up from the border fortresses and the northern wall of our country, an equally disturbing thing is that the federal government also claims from the Canadian border south 100 miles as a control zone. That's in the legislation. Now that runs from Maine to the Pacific Ocean. It's interesting because Seattle falls in that zone, Detroit falls in the zone. I'm sure other larger cities fall within the zone. A control zone is where things are suspended. So let me move to the third part of my story. I then go into what we can expect, and I write it as Boundary County because that's where we live. And before I do that, I want to speak of the code. Nobody's ever picked up on it. Nobody's ever seen what it really says. And Obama was extremely excited. And you can go online, just look, just search under "We Are the Ones." Obama, in his exhilaration, understanding that he was a community organizer, which is a community activist, which is a agitator. Those are all integral parts of the Bolshevik plan. Absolutely musts in the Bolshevik plan. Has to have it. Well, he went from that to what? To a Illinois state legislator, and then he went from that to United States Senate. And he didn't think he had a chance, he says it, of ever running and getting the Democrat nomination. But he said an interesting thing in his exhilaration at having gotten at least to running against Hillary. He exclaimed joyously in February, and I think it was in Chicago, doesn't matter where, it was in the United States, and he said, "We are the ones we have been waiting for." Remember I said communists for generations. They work, not in their lifetime, that's okay, they just keep going. Every communist in this country has been looking forward to the day when we'll become the glorious Socialist Republic. I don't know what they've been drinking, but that was where every one of them looked to that day. And all of a sudden, and every Bolshevik more recently looking for that day and doing something to get there, all of a sudden Obama realized and just proclaimed it to the world, we are the ones we have been waiting for. Meaning, we communists are the communists that we communists have been waiting for, and the takeover is here. And then they won the election. And now they're in the consolidation. The Bolsheviks in Russia the takeover was easy. Remember the consolidation, they had a civil war, and they fought the White Russians, and the United States invaded Russia, and Britain invaded Russia to boot the Bolsheviks out, and none of that worked. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Now, what does that mean to us in this country? It means I had a 60-mile control zone. I was nice, I guess. They decided they want 100. Those are control zones, except for the big cities, are zones that can be cleared. You people, you don't live here anymore. Nothing here belongs to you anymore. This is all belongs to the people. That's it. And then anyone caught in this zone, 60 mile, now 100 mile, is total no civil rights. You just go to jail. And then the last aspect is when I've known about a woman named Irina Ratushinskaya, and she was a Russian woman and who was a journalist who was sent to the Gulag, and she got out, and they said, fine, we'll let you out, go. And so she came to the United States, and she now teaches at Northwestern University with another woman that I speak quite a bit about. Bernadine Dorn of the Weathermen. She teaches there too. She lost her license. She at least has been accused of bombing and killing San Francisco police officers. She's a real nasty character. She's teaching there too. But when I was doing this, I thought, after she escaped it, what an ironic thing. What if not she finds herself back in the USSR again? Only it's the United States Socialist Republic. So I talk about her book, and I talk about another woman who spent 30-some years in the Gulag in Kolyma in eastern Russia, and all the problems there. You know where the ideal, almost Kolyma Gulag is for the United States? It's in central Idaho. The perfect Gulag for all the reasons, and I talk about that in the book, where people are brought, political prisoners and all that. They can't escape, not because they're offenses, because they'll never make it out. Anyway, and lastly, let me say, the Bolshevik papers, there are 61 of them. They are standalone. It's a takeoff from the Federalist papers that were written. Well, I do the Bolshevik papers. Bolshevik paper 2 is about the ACLU, and I've already talked about it. I'll just name a few. Bolshevik 5 and 6 pertain to Obama and his immigration and those other policies, suing Arizona, absolutely just distractions. Bolshevik paper 9 and Cass Sunstein. Are any of you familiar with Cass Sunstein? He's number 2 man in power, as far as I'm concerned, behind Obama in the government. He's not elected. He oversees the writing of rules. This guy says in his published documents that they will infiltrate people into any Tea Party, veterans organizations. They will infiltrate people in there, but they won't do it by government people. I mean, this guy's written it. You can find this stuff online. And in his books, you can buy them. That he's not going to use any of this information he gets for bad purposes. They'll do it for re-education. But they won't do it. They'll hire agents because people would be suspicious of the government if they did it. This guy is in there right now. Talk about Obama's American patriot. He is not. He is a patriot, but not to a free America. Talk about his Christian faith. I'm very careful to use scripture in saying God commands us to beware of false prophets and sheep or wolves wearing sheep's clothing. He said, beware. That didn't say if you feel like it. And he said, okay, well, how do I know? And he said, you'll know one another by the fruit. You'll know them by their fruit. I searched and searched. That's the most exposing chapter in here. He just knows nothing. I mean, he's a phony. Torture. Big deal. And I spend a lot of time, 2 different ones on torture. Our Constitution is subordinate to customary international law. Right now, we have no laws that contradict any international law. You want to know what torture is? I thought it was pretty bad to pull out fingernails and put bamboo shoots in the toes and things like that. You want to know what torture defined by international law is? No conjugal visits. You don't allow conjugal visits, that's torture. Not feeding them their indigenous foods. You feed them, they're from Afghan, you feed them steak and lobster, you're torturing them. Not enough sunshine, torture. Too much sunshine, torture. Handcuffing, torture. So all our police are torturing. Putting a hood over them, torture. These are all defined tortures. We're not talking about this other stuff. We're talking about ridiculous things. But that is international law. Forget waterboarding, which is not torture as torture used to be defined. Then there is the non-derogable. Do any of you know what that means? I'm not the smartest guy, but I thought I kind of knew some words, but I had to go look that up. Torture is, by international law, applicable to all countries, including the United States of America. Torture is non-derogable. That means nothing can excuse not giving a conjugal visit or feeding them steak and lobster. Nothing. And so the ridiculous, and this question is put up, and it's tough for them, but international law says a nation must give up its sovereignty and its existence rather than torture. I give an example. 100,000 little children at the LA Coliseum having a hot dog and seeing whatever entertainment they have, and the federal government and the LAPD have an international law responsibility to protect those children, not let them be hurt in, taken into military and things like that. Don't let them get hurt. So the parents say, hey, are you guys going to really protect them? And we say, we have international law responsibility to protect them. We will. And then we get this bomber. And we hear he's got some bombs planted there in the Coliseum. And they're going to go off in 10 minutes. And we know if we punch this guy right in the nose, I don't mean break it, not even bleed, or a little bleeding. If we punch him in the nose, he will tell us where the bombs are, and he will deactivate all of them. International law, and these young Minnesota law school students and all will say, can't do. That's torture. Torture is non-derogable. There is never a justification. We say, but we have 100,000 little children. You also say we got to protect them. Doesn't make any difference. Non-derogable. They die so that he doesn't get a punch in the nose. That is our international law on torture. And we hear all these dishonest politicians talking about, oh, my gosh, that's it. That is torture. I talk about Bill Clinton's WMD. We all know what WMD is, weapons of mass destruction, right? Well, Clinton had his WMD. His WMD was wrongful mass death. I had to make it fit, so Clinton had his WMD, and Bush is accused of his WMD. The Secretary of Defense told the New York Times that the Serbs had killed 500,000 genocide Islamic victims in Kosovo. And that's why we had to go in there. And that's why NATO had to go in there. Spain had the presidency. After it was all over, they sent in their forensic teams. Guess what? A couple thousand bodies. The Spanish forensic team said the burials were consistent with a normal death rate of a civilian society. They also said, hey, you know that prison that NATO bombed and it had all those Muslims in there? They said, we went over and looked at that too. He said, the strangest thing, this is all, you can look at the papers, he said, this is the strangest thing. If those Serbs hated those Muslims so much, why did they bury them with their heads facing Mecca and honoring their religious beliefs? So that's Clinton's WMD. There are a lot of other Bolshevik papers in there, address a lot of other things. The Republicans are no better. They got all of their scams out there that are totally untrue, and I exposed those. And that's just a smidge of the book. I guess that ends it. The book can be had at Amazon. It's $29.95. I think I'm getting a deal from the publisher, so I may be able to get it down. And if I do, and anyone's interested, I'd be more than happy to provide it. It's a lot of it standalone reading. You don't have to start from the beginning to the end. You can just pick and choose and read. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that it?